So, I last time had a surgery. I recorded like several times, like immediately after the surgery. And I tried to catch footage about the surgery and stuff. My top surgery, I had a lot more immediate content about it. And this time I did not do that. And I apologize, but also I kind of couldn't. Um, so today is March 8th. And yeah, that's kind of a while after my surgery that I had um, last month. I had surgery on the 17th of February, and that's, you know, a little over 2 weeks ago. And when I went in to have surgery the night before, I couldn't sleep. I was very anxious because partially because I've wanted this surgery since I was 18, and partially because I was anxious about the surgeon. Um, but essentially, I went in for a hysterectomy, vaginectomy. Essentially, there's nothing left female at all. And when I went, we had done an ultrasound where they could see that one of the ovaries was 3 times too small, and that they couldn't see the tubes, which meant all of my tubes and stuff were way too tiny, like including the vulva. And externally, anyone could see I was missing a couple of things. So, yeah, it was already like this necessary thing because I was born intersex. Um, Went in to get the surgery and stuff, and they actually got the IV in the first time. They basically went straight to the spot that worked last time, and that worked again. And thank goodness, because the IV had been a very unpleasant thing. My anemia can make it very hard for people to do blood draws and to put IVs in me. And phew, I did not have 5 stab holes this time. With top surgery, I had 5 stab holes, and both hands were just like bandaged up and stuff. It was not fun. So yay for that. Also, this time I was going to be having an examination for phalloplasty from my normal surgeon, and he came in pretty early and greeted me all warm and nice and everything, and explained what he's going to be doing and stuff. We talked a little bit. It was good quality. Made me feel a lot better talking to him. And then, your anesthesiologist comes in and chats with you a little. The head nurse comes in and says, "Hi, I'll be in there." And so then my surgeon came in, and my surgeon, I made my surgeon laugh. I was like, I'm gonna feel better if I think because of the way I grew up, um, if I could get the person that I was afraid of to feel more positive toward me, then I would be a little more trusting, because they're less likely to hurt someone that made them feel good, or at least immediately hurt someone that made them feel good. Um, and so it made me feel a little better. But also, to her credit, she seemed to have learned from our last experience together where I had been made extremely anxious. And she stayed like a solid 2 yards away from me, like on the other end of the room, almost the entire time. And when she did finally come and sit down, she still sat like at least half a yard away from me. She like moved the chair intentionally further away from me. And that space really, really helped me to be able to talk to her. And she and I had a much better time interacting with each other. So, to her credit, she was not as intimidating and as thrown by my iatrophobia as the first time we interacted, when she was very like, "What the F is wrong with you? Why are you being stupid?" kind of an attitude toward me, which only made it worse. Um, so she was a lot more like, "I'm not going to invade your space. You don't have to stress about it." She wasn't necessarily you know, oh, this is reasonable, but she at least was definitely trying to be polite about it. And just that all by itself was a huge improvement. And so I was less anxious because of that. And so when I was going into surgery, I was actually kind of like, I'm looking forward to this. I'm going to finally have this surgery done. This is a short recovery time, and this is going to be great. And I was actually eager when they started putting they put a mask over your face thing that has oxygen going through it, and you breathe deep so that you start getting some of that oxygen going in before they inject you with the anesthesia, which kind of stings a little when it goes in, but it's okay. They just drip it into your IV. And then you go to sleep and you wake up. And the whole surgery is done. There's no dreaming or anything like that. And I knew that from the first surgery, and I was all like, this will be fine. Last surgery, when I woke up from anesthesia, I was a little out of it or whatever, but not. It was fine. I came out of it and pretty decently, and it was okay. This time, before I went into surgery, they tried a new medicine on me because they were worried that I would have nausea issues, and because the surgery was on my torso, they did not want me having any kind of nausea. So they put this little patch behind my ear, and I woke up and apparently had a very bad reaction to that patch. And I couldn't like move. I couldn't like do anything. And I like they tried to have me just roll to the side a little bit so that they could wash me from like blood being on me and stuff from surgery, and I like almost fell completely to the floor, and the nurse had to catch me and stuff, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, you're not going to be able to leave. You're going to have to stay overnight." I couldn't pee, so they had to do a catheter, and that was very traumatic. Trigger warning if but I because I have too small of stuff from how I was born. Apparently, that includes my urethra. I have some sort of a little minor stricture like thing going on in there, and it took two nurses trying to pry me open to do that. And thank freaking goodness, I was so essentially drugged out of it, and I couldn't process, I couldn't think. The whole, if I turned even slightly, everything would turn into a blur. Like, it was really, really bad. And on top of that, my surgery had gone long, but they couldn't even tell me why my surgery had gone long because I was incoherent. Like, I could not function, I could not move. And I have flashes of stuff that happened then. And the biggest thing that I can remember is I kept telling them, but I know this is bad, but I'm so happy about the surgery. I had it in my head for some reason that if I wasn't grateful enough, they would take the surgery back, and that's completely illogical because what are they going to do? Try to shove organs back into your body? Like, that doesn't make sense. But for some reason, I was like, oh my gosh, please don't take the surgery away. I do actually want the surgery. This is bad, but I do want my surgery. um, I don't it was awful. I can vaguely remember attempting to pee, and I couldn't because everything was spinning. And I remember telling the nurse what's going on with my like delirium or whatever is priority number one, and I can feel that the bladder is full, but I can't get enough brain function to push out any pee at all because it's secondary and this is primary. And yeah, it was terrible. And so then there was all this like anxiety. I was terrified that they were going to make me stay in the hospital surrounded by doctors. I was like, oh my gosh, please no, please no, please no. And then they were telling, my girlfriend that things had gone long and that I was not okay. And they had, the head nurse stayed there with me, monitoring me, checking all of this different stuff, trying to switch out the fluids that were in me. They actually pushed a totally different IV fluid into me and tried to flush out the other IV fluid, trying to flush out as much of the drug out of my system that way and stuff. Like, they were like, you shouldn't have lost too much blood, but maybe your anemia is doing a little bit of stuff. So, tomorrow make sure you start weaning back up into iron taking because you really need to get that going. They were like, very concerned that I was like, even the surgeon came in to check and was like, wow, you are still here. Do you want to try to pee again? Maybe that would help. And I was like, no, I am not taking the risk that they have to do that again, because I'm a little more coherent than I was when they did that before, and just based on the vague sense and memory of what they did before, I don't want to remember that in a more vivid way. And I don't want to take the risk. And that when the surgeon left and stuff, the nurse was like, you made the right choice. um, like it was bad. But thankfully I was able to finally leave. So I got there at 6 in the morning. My surgery started at like 7:30, and I was supposed to be able to leave by like 11:30 or noon. And instead my surgery ran long, and so then my leave time was supposed to be by like 1ish instead, because they had to do my surgery an extra 1:30ish instead, because they had to do an extra 70 minutes. My surgery ran that much longer. And instead, we didn't leave until 6:40 in the evening because it took that long for me to be coherent enough to stand. I still had to have help. They had to wheelchair me out, which they wheelchair you out anyway, but they had to. There wasn't really an option. And when I got to the car and stuff, it took two people to help me into the car. Like, I was really not in the best state, and I could tell the head nurse really wasn't certain I should still be going home, but I had gotten the clear, so she was gonna help me out, even though it wasn't really what she would have chosen. But I had such bad iatrophobia that, it's on record. So got home and stuff, and yeah, I had to go back, and they had forgotten that President's Day was the next Monday, so they were expecting the catheter to come out the next Monday, and instead they were closed because everyone had forgotten President's Day, because it's like one of those holidays that you don't really think about. So then had to wait till Tuesday. So then they were rushing to get me in because they had not, you know, prepared for me to be long term on a catheter. So they hadn't had me measuring anything. They hadn't had me cleaning anything, which technically my girlfriend would have had to have been doing because I couldn't hardly do anything. I was really struggling with functionality. Um, it was very hard to have a BM afterwards for a while, but I did thankfully have a couple before that appointment, because if I hadn't had any bowel movements before then, that would have been bad as well. They would have not been okay with that. And I was very terrified that they were going to say I had to keep the catheter, that I had to keep coming back to more stuff, and I didn't want that. And thankfully, the surgeon took her personal nurse and had her personal nurse do the work with me instead of doing it herself. And that made me a little less scared, because I had been scared that I was going to have to actually interact with the doctor touching me in a very private space. And that I don't know how I could have done that. They would have had to strap me down, like literally. I have a pretty strong fear of doctors. So instead, which is why my personal doctor came and did an examination while I was under, because I was like, you're not going to be able to do a full examination for me to get phalloplasty unless I'm unconscious. And so this worked out in that regard. But so getting the catheter out, I was still struggling with a lot of anxiety. And thankfully, I was able to get help getting through the panic attack that I was having, and I was able to pee, and so that I didn't have to keep the catheter, but I could hardly walk. And it took a while for me to be able to do stuff. So, I keep getting these alerts. My chart has my information in it from the surgery and stuff, and test results, and blah, 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 blah. So I finally get up enough strength to go check on it at the computer and everything, because I don't have the app on my phone. And I go look, and it turns out that yes, my one ovary was 3 times too small. Yes, all of my tubes were too small. Blah, blah, blah. Everybody knew that. Whatever, not a big deal. What was a big deal um, was that I apparently had some endometriosis. And the endometriosis had never been diagnosed or discovered before because I'm scared of doctors. But essentially, it was attached to fossa on one of my hip bones. It was all the way grown up to my appendix, and then it was grown into my liver. And they actually had to cut off the bottom part of my liver. Now, thankfully, your liver grows back. As long as at least, a little more than half of it is there, it can grow back pretty decently. And if you cut off just a small, small little bit, it'll grow back fully and it'll be okay. So thankfully, it's not that big of a deal. But if I had not wanted the surgery, if I had not pushed for the surgery, like 10 years from now, I could have been in not good straits. Um, like, because no one knew about the endometriosis. So, thankfully, that's all gone. They cut all of it out, and the only part of me that had to be cut out that was quote unquote effectively an organ or whatever was the bottom edge of my liver, which again, it'll grow back. So, I had like a pretty severe complication or whatever. Um, it sucks because my recovery time I was hoping would be like, 10 days. They said 2 weeks. I was hoping 10 days. It's now past 2 weeks and I'm still in some pain, but I am more functional. I've been able to walk around and stuff for a while now. But I can't really sit up for super long at like a computer and stuff. My torso just hurts. My doctor said that when they take out the full everything, uterus, all of it, that there's a little cavity there and your organs kind of settle into that cavity and that can hurt a little bit or stretch a little bit. Well, now I have an even larger cavity because they had to cut out more tissue because of the endometriosis and stuff. So um recovery has been longer than I had hoped. My doctor said it could be 4 weeks of recovery, and I have things to do. And so it's very frustrating. I am not the kind of person who's very comfortable with just doing nothing and like laying around. I'm the kind of person who has like wakes up with like a set list in my head of here's some tasks I need to get done. Like I'm very self-motivated or whatever, however you want to say that. And it has been difficult for me. And there's a lot of things going on in our lives right now, and it's very frustrating to be like this. I walked for a while yesterday with my family. I went and visited with them and stuff for the first time since my surgery, and I could hardly, stand it by the end of walking around that much and stuff. And it was just going to the mall and hanging out for a couple of hours, um, I guess for a few hours. But the point is it it was a lot, and I need things to not be a lot because I have a lot to do, and it's I I I haven't even it took days, like it took, I don't know, like 4 or 5 days to even start getting enough mental function going on to even think about normal stuff. So it took a while for me to get to the point where I was thinking about, oh, I need to record and, talk about this surgery. And I started doing that around like Friday or ish, but I didn't have the energy to do it. And then Saturday we did stuff. And then, anyway, the point is I've finally gotten to it today. Um, there's just a lot going on in my real life. Um, I've got siblings moving here, and my parents are here visiting, and people are looking for jobs and apartments and stuff, and it's his girlfriend has health issues, and yeah, there's just a lot. And thankfully, I don't have any like cancer or anything like that. Those tests came back happy. Um, but like, yeah. Um, I guess I keep saying it's a good thing that, with all of these surgeries, at some point it's highly likely that you'll end up with a complication. And if I had to have a complication for a surgery, thankfully it was this one. This one's the shortest recovery time. This surgery is the, supposed least problematic or whatever. So if I had to have a complication, this is the best surgery to have the complication on. But just because I had a complication for this surgery doesn't mean I won't have any for the ones going forward. Hopefully I won't. There was a slight one with going forward. This surgery was also supposed to include creating a flap of skin to help with stage 1 phalloplasty. So this one was a mix between stage 1 phalloplasty and actual phalloplasty. But I didn't have the tissue for that because I was either born without them or at some point when I was very, very tiny, they were cut out. But I don't have any. I never did in my entire life have inner labia. I only had the outer ones. Thank goodness I had the outer ones because that's what they craft your balls out of for when you get phalloplasty. So thank goodness for that. But I never ever had in my entire life any inner ones. And they were going to use that to create a flap of skin that they were going to use for helping with urethral lengthening during phalloplasty. And they were not able to do that because there wasn't anything there to do it with. I don't think they were expecting there to be zero. Ow. Ow, chuckling hurts. I'm still sore. Even now, it's really frustrating, but it is what it is. So I have to keep healing. I am eating a lot of protein again. At first, I wasn't, and my healing was a lot slower, and I was in a lot more pain. And then I realized we weren't doing protein the way that we had been when I had top surgery. So we started upping my protein intake, and it's definitely made a big difference. Also, the stitches on my belly. Here, I guess I can show the stitches on my belly. So I've got 2 on each side, and then I have, you can't really see because of the shadow over here. Two on each side, and then they had the belly button. So I still have glue right here. The glue is like whatever, I can wash it off with alcohol whenever. The stitches, I can kind of feel the pokiness of the stitches, but otherwise it's mostly scab. And I've been putting some Eucerin lotion on them a little bit to help them heal, as the glue that was covering them has slowly been deteriorating away. When you come out of the surgery, it's like they're sealed underneath of glue stuff. So they seem to be healing fine. When I first got out of surgery, there was a ton of like purple bruising and stuff, and one side of me was sunken in more than the other side. And I was a little like concerned about that, but they were like, "Oh no, don't worry, it'll be all right." One side hurts way more than the other side, but they said they had to pressure wash that side, and that was normal as well. They apparently had to like literally take pressurized water and batter the inside of me on one side. I'm assuming the side that the endometriosis was the worst on. But anyway, so yeah, not the funnest experience ever, but I am actually really happy about the surgery. My girlfriend and a friend likes to joke that I'm now just a Ken doll. There's nothing female left, period, in my entire body. I only have male left, and that by itself is extremely awesome to me. Um, so the only thing left is to slap a penis on there. And I have appointment on Friday with my normal surgeon, and all my surgeries get to go back to being with him from now on. And if you've ever watched any of my videos, you know I'm super thrilled with what he did for my top surgery, and I'm very excited to work with him for my phalloplasty. He great. So I'm very excited about that. My appointment's on Friday to discuss everything from when I was under, but he did write notes for it, so I do know, um, you know, I'm gonna have to do radial forearm. My tissue on my thighs is too thick, which I expected, but was hoping wasn't true because I have kind of short arms. But I was hoping to be able to have, a full 6-inch penis, which is what, I've had a phantom limb syndrome penis like most of my life, and that's how long it, would be to be more in alignment with that length of the phantom one, but basically my arm's not long enough to do that. So I'm really hoping gravity plays a role after I've had it, and that it can feel more correct or accurate or whatever. My girlfriend's pretty confident that my brain will adjust, so hopefully it will, but I don't know. I'm not super confident about that. But at least this surgery is done. This surgery had so many freaking like delays and arbitrary crap, and was with a like I got referred to one surgeon, and then she was like, "Oh no, I need to refer you to this other surgeon," and it was just like it was a big hassle. This surgery was a hassle, but it's also a surgery the first time I ever asked for a hysterectomy, I was 18 years old, and I finally can say that's done. And I didn't even know I was intersex at that point. I just wanted it gone because I couldn't stand having it. I had I'd never even heard the word intersex when I was 18. Like, I don't even know if the word intersex had come into existence yet when I was 18. So, like, I don't know, but I just know I'm very glad it's happened. It's just been a lot more complicated and stressful than I think anyone was expecting. And sometimes that happens. Sometimes that just happens. So, you gotta roll with the punches and get through life. And this recovery is frustrating, but I'm finally getting a little bit more functional, which is very important. And I am excited for my appointment on Friday. I'm like really excited for it because after this appointment on Friday, I should be able to start electrolysis, be able to start knowing like a closer date for when I actually go in for state phase 1 phalloplasty, and that's just like that's just incredible. That's mind blowing. I'm just super excited about that, and that's gonna be a bad recovery because that's the worst recovery out of all of the surgeries, and yet I'm looking forward to it so freaking much because even if it's not finished yet, I will have my penis at that point, and it won't be all there, completely functional, done or whatever, but it'll. I can't even begin to express how important it is to me and how excited I am. And this surgery was very important to me. My top surgery, I was like, "Oh, this is exciting," but it wasn't like the end of the world. This surgery felt like the end of the world, and I've overcome the hurdle of the end of the world. So now any hurdles from here on just feel like I can do that. Like it's totally worth it. And it's just as much as I'm sore emotionally, surgery wise, I'm very happy. Um, I will say, taking my testosterone, I usually take my since I take it sub, I usually put it in my belly fat, and taking my testosterone the first time after my surgery was very complicated. It was not comfortable at all. Like, just trying to look down to see what I was doing all by itself was uncomfortable. So yeah, but for the most part, I've just been binge watching a lot of random TV shows and trying to heal and eat a lot of protein. Obviously, other nutrients and stuff too, but definitely a lot of protein. Um, it's been an adventure, but I'm really excited about the next adventure, and I'm really glad I did this one. Even besides how much I wanted this surgery and how much I cared about the surgery, I accidentally saved myself a ton of issues in my future by getting rid of all that endometriosis. So it's like a double whammy of this is a good thing, you know? So I'll take it. I will take it. But it is really, really satisfying to be like, there's nothing female left about me. That's a really, really good feeling. Anyway, um, yeah, I guess that's it.